And we are back on the Southern Ontario Dirt Show podcast. Jonathan Howe alongside Travis Cunningham. And it feels good to get the first podcast into the new year under our belt. And Travis, we're, it's the off season for us around here locally still, but there's still plenty to talk to, plenty to get into, like the Chili Bowl Nationals. And that's kind of what the most of this podcast is going to focus on: Chili Bowl stuff, some Southern Ontario Sprint stuff. But before we get going too far, how was the holidays for you, Travis?
Well, holidays were good. Normal old stuff. Just me, my mom, and my my two cats, and her, my sister's cat as well. Big full house. She stayed like all over a week. Had lots of fun.
That's awesome. Yeah, it was a busy one for me with my stuff on Hits FM. I think I ended up being on air like 14 of 15 days over the holidays. I think the only day I wasn't talking to anybody was on the what was it? Probably a Christmas Day, I think, was my off day. So it was pretty intense. A lot of work, but I wouldn't have it any other way. It's good to talk about rock and roll. And I gotta say, what episode? I've lost count. What episode are we on? We got to do our numbers here.
34.
Are we on 34? That's what I thought. I was like,
this is a tricky one. I've been thinking over it for a month. I got one.
Okay, who do you got?
But it's not like, for me, it's Ken. Fuck. What was his name? Macaulay. Ron Macaulay. He ran Sportsman and Street Stock back in the day. He was fun, just Flanagan and stuff, but he doesn't do it anymore. But he's like the only 34 I could think of.
I got a couple Merrittville guys in the back pocket, but correct me if I'm wrong, but Randy Alway runs the 34, does he not? I think Randy Alway is a 34.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. There's a 34.
And I'm trying to picture it. Is Dave Winiger also a 34? Was he running a 34 in the four cylinders this past year? Did I have?
Yeah, I think you're right.
I think so.
So there's two fresh guys that I'm not like. Dean Winiger is pretty, like I love his Twitter stuff, and he's around the BRP. He was around BRP when they first started work there, and I worked with Joe Plazik after that. So he's got lots of old stories. I love Dean.
Yeah, and I always forget what Dave's connection is to Dean. If it's is it his dad, his brother?
Yeah.
I'll clarify that.
Nephew or something.
We'll work on that. Yeah, it might be nephew. Actually, you know what?
There's three 34s.
There it is. There's 34s. All right. We got it underway. We got it figured out. I thought it was 34, and then I was like, no, haven't we already said Alway? No, but yeah, 34. Wild. Awesome stuff to get the show started with. How about the Chili Bowl? Chili Bowl is what's coming up. We got a big party for it on Saturday. We're going to hang out. We're going to do some stuff for that one on our social feed and all that's great stuff. So Chili Bowl had the shootout last night, had the Race of Champions we had the Tulsa shootout a little earlier. We had the Race of Champions last night, and we had some qualifying results. What do you what's your impression, or what do you love about the Chili Bowl?
The Chili Bowl, like, for me, a lot of people like, oh, the Chili Bowl, I gotta go there, I gotta race there. Like, to me, it's not like that. To me, I just love that it's January and I get to sit in my shop every single night and watch amazing racing. Like, it's on the lower end of things to get to for me. I know I'm on the rear end of that. Everyone else wants to go, but I just love watching every single night. Like, I'm watching right now. As soon as we kicked off, a car flipped and added to the flip count. They have a flip count. Like, it's just fun to follow that kind of stuff. And that's it for me. Just mid-season January. This like kicks off my winter depression a little bit, which I get going pretty hardcore in January or December. And this rids of it. And like, season's gonna be here before we know it.
For me, I used to think about the race season starting with the Rolex 24 Hours of Daytona. That's kind of what I used to think about. But as I've gotten into dirt racing, it's now the Chili Bowl. I mean, there's been other racing, like I know Kyle Larson's out racing late models to start the year and stuff like that. But to me, Chili Bowl starts the racing season. Like, now we can actually talk about it. We can focus on it. It's gonna be a fun time. Looking forward to I'm going to say a pretty open field. Like, I'm not I'm not up to date on the midget scene in the States necessarily to the utmost degree, but no Larson, no Bell. Automatically, I think that this thing is pretty open into somebody winning it. Hey, maybe one of our boys like Dylan Westbrook catches some fire and ends up in with a big win.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on the locals. Like Glenn, he's down there like always. He's been running again for the last few years, and he goes tomorrow night. So his qualifying night's tomorrow. Like, they split the field up into 5 nights. Most people know that, for people who don't. and then it works off like a point system. And then Saturday it starts at like 10 a.m. at like the second O main or something. So if you have a bad qualifying night, you're getting up early. And yeah, Westbrook's going Thursday, and then another kind of local guy, Highside Raceware owner Dave Axton. He's been up here a couple times. I know he's been to Merrittville and Osh Weekend for sure. And yeah, he's going Wednesday night, and he's just from around the Syracuse area of New York. And you'll see D-Dub, Stiers, Axton. I think Glover might be down there. Steve Glover has been going the last couple of years, and he's kind of like an ESS guy as well. But I think
Mm-hmm.
that's it for local guys this year. But for me, winner is going to be Buddy Kofoid, I think.
Yeah, he's gonna be tough to beat. That's a good pick. I'm looking at the results from the O'Reilly Race of Champions from last night, and the Race of Champions is a pretty unique event. It definitely draws some big names into it. I had my eyes on it because of Alex Bowman's participation in it as a NASCAR guy. He's one of my favorite drivers. He's one of the guys I pull for in the stock car world. So you know what, I figured when he's racing dirt, I better pay attention. And he had a decent run, ended up 12th in the main event. But when it comes to the O'Reilly Race of Champions, that particular part, we talked about the fact that Kyle Larson's not going to be racing. Christopher Bell is not going to be racing. Would you like to see the Race of Champions event kind of become almost like an all-star event that kicks off the whole Chili Bowl and it gets its own night and we encourage some more NASCAR guys to just come out. Maybe you got to give them some appearance fees or whatever, but like really make that like a bigger event than just something else that is run on top of a qualifying night.
Yeah, because I saw some chatter on Twitter last night about how it kind of sucks that when it used to be 4 nights starting on Tuesday with your qualifying night, it was everybody in the podium gets locked into Saturday night. So the whole podium was happy. But now, because they've added the Monday night, which dilutes the field a little bit talent wise, in my opinion, so like a lot more less hitters each night. So in my opinion, I'd rather that group together. So should we go back to 4 qualifying nights and then all of the podium gets into the show? Because right now that last podium guy stands up there and then he realizes, oh man, I'm in a B main on Saturday after all that.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Right.
I saw some chatter on that. So if that's the case, we could move the whole event of the Race of Champions to Monday, and then maybe add a couple more people, have a whole new deal, and then go back to a little bit more crammed qualifying nights and a little bit more talent filled fields.
Yeah, and give the Race of Champions night. Give that as like your main promo. Get everybody's eyes on the Chili Bowl, being like, "Oh yeah, it's Chili Bowl time. I got to go watch Alex Bowman. I got to watch Larson, Bell, Briscoe, all those big heavy hitters from other series that come and do it. Make it more of like a real exhibition All Star event that kicks off the Chili Bowl. I think that would be better. At least that I think it would do a lot better for the actual event. And also, you got to pay more than 10 grand to win because that's a big reason why Larson and Bell, and maybe the only reason that
That's why he's
Larson and
not
Bell
going
aren't
on
there.
Saturday for sure.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I saw on Gravel's thing, Larson wants it 1,000 to start, 20,000 to win or something, which isn't out of the question really.
well,
Like
for
it
how
shouldn't be
much
that hard to
that
do.
event makes between people who actually show
Yeah,
up
that's
to
the whole
it and
thing.
the TV, there's, you know, Kyle Larson's running his own sprint car series now. He knows how much money there is in the racing series world. So I think when he throws those numbers out there, I don't think he's just throwing them out there to throw them out there. So, but something locally we should touch on that kind of broke over our little extended holiday break was the release of the 2023 Southern Ontario Sprints schedule, which gets started April 22nd at Merrittville Speedway, the Spring Sizzler. And this is going to be a great schedule.
Yeah, I know. I can't wait. It's even got Ranceville on there, some
Mm-hmm.
one date in August. So yeah, Southern Ontario Sprints plus one New York date, and I'm planning on following the whole tour. So that'll be my Ransomville debut on that day. So I'm looking forward to that one. A couple at Southern Ontario Motor Speedway,
Mm-hmm.
Brighton, one at Brockville for sure. Yeah, cute little
Yep.
schedule. I love it. Can't wait.
Then, of course, we got the Sprint Car Nationals as part of that schedule as well on September 16th, 10,000 to win at that one. Season finales of 4,000 to win race at Brockville. Humberstone's got a pair of dates late in September. We got 2 visits to Merrittville early in the schedule. So 3 visits, excuse me, I guess because we got the Don Turner Memorial as well on September 9th, which is
Yep.
going to be 3,900 to
Humberstone
win.
has a Canada Day one as well.
Yes. Yeah,
Humberstone's
there's
got three.
Yep, there's going to be a lot of sprint car action to follow in Southern Ontario, and some rule changes as well that you wanted to get into, Travis. And as
Uh,
the driver and the guy who turns wrenches on these cars and doesn't just talk about them, I'll let you explain them a bit more.
it really wasn't that big of a deal. Just wing rules are going to be a little different than Ush Weekend. With the well, Ush Weekend hasn't had the real meeting yet either. We could talk them into changing it as well. But for right now, the SOS is going to have 2-inch wicker bill on a flat wing and no wicker bill on a dish wing, which is basically just a 1 inch different on the wicker bill height. On a flat wing from Ush Weekend, you're only allowed 1 inch there and 0 on the dish. And then they're allowing electronic bleeders, which Ush Weekend allowed that last year anyways. And what was the other one? Oh yeah, if you have cause two cautions in the, or no, if you get 2 laps down at the race director's discretion, they could kick you off the track. And as long as you're holding your line and stuff, they're not going to do that. But if you're 2 laps down and swerving all over the joint, get ready to go to the pits. And like to me, the sprint 360s isn't a learning division. Like for a kid like Kyle Larson back when he was 14, he just got in there and gassed it up. Like kids like that, sure, but
Yeah,
and like
prodigies.
to learn there. Prodigies, yes, but definitely not a learning division. So I definitely love that rule as well.
Yeah, and with
But there are people that still,
how
it's not a
well,
beginner division.
yeah, and I mean, with the success, the growth of crate sprint racing, it just makes sense that, great, if you want to go sprint car racing, crate sprints is your entry point. And we've seen it. There's plenty of guys who have either raced for a year or two, maybe a couple years under their belt, and now they're ready to go 360 racing, and they're making that jump this year, and they've made the jump in the past couple of years. So I think it just makes sense.
Yeah, and we can't forget about the Ontario topless sprints as well. They're still new and learning and stuff like that. But for guys that, like, say you bought a crate sprint and there's 40 cars next year, and then we take 24 at each race. So if you're not making the show, take the wing off and go run with the OTS to get some time like that too. That's what I saw a couple guys do that with the crates last year, and so there's another way to get seat time as well if you're struggling, and then you can run both, and yeah, stuff like that. And yeah, John Watson, he's always listening, and he told me after he heard the Turford episode to get in contact with Ian Hunter and have him on the show to talk about the Ontario Topless Sprints. And we're definitely going to do that at some point.
Yeah, for sure. And I got to give a shout out to Peter Turford, because on top of putting coming on our show and breaking down his takeover of the Southern Ontario Sprints, he's really done a great job with the social media campaigns. Like if you're following Southern Ontario Sprints on Facebook or any of the social media, you're seeing lots of great content coming out over the winter. Lots of sit downs with drivers like Ryan Turner have been already on it. It makes sense. Why not? This is how you grow sprint car racing in Southern Ontario, and Peter's doing a great job with it in already a really short time. Travis, we mentioned the Southern Ontario sprint schedule that came out, but we also got the ESS schedule that has shown up, and I'm obviously interested in this series, interested in tracking it. You have really converted me into the sprint car fan. I gotta say, the first couple of years I was like all in on the modifieds, and then we started the show, and we've talked to a lot of we've talked to a lot of sprint car guys on the show, and now I'm kind of all in and following not just stuff locally here, but stuff across the border, like the ESS.
Yeah. Sometimes it's okay to like two things. That's what like I personally like the race fans that like will hate on one division or the other. Like, oh man, those people grind my gears a little bit. Like late model, modified, sportsman, crate sprint, 360, dwarf car, street stock, mini stock. When I became an announcer, I realized there's good races in every division, there's amazing races in every division, and there's garbage races in every single division. So just get your butts in the seats. And if you're seeing one garbage race that night, I bet you 2 of the other ones are going to be awesome. So that's why I kind of think like that. So yeah, how did we even get on that? Yeah. Oh, we're talking about the ESS.
Yes.
So yeah, the schedule's out. They're coming back to Canada as well. They're coming to
Yep.
Brockville and Cornwall in June. They're coming to back to Quebec in late August. Last year's champ was Canadian, who we should have on the show soon, Jordan Poirier.
Yep.
He was borderline a Southern Ontarian for 2 years during COVID, where he couldn't race anywhere else. Felt like he lived
Yeah,
down
he
here.
was kicking butt down here. I swear, he just parked that thing at Maryville and like used that as home base because he was there. Felt like every weekend, at least anytime we had a sprint car race.
Yep, that's definitely how it felt racing against him as well. But I even saw him at BRP a few times. But yeah, so the schedule is pretty awesome. Lots of Fulton. I love that place. BlackRock kicks it off April 15th. My car's ready. I might have to wander on down to that. There's going to be a million cars there, but heck, why not? Be a good
Yeah,
little test
3,000 to
session.
win.
Yeah, yeah, whatever. I just love it, and I don't know it off by heart, but I know they're back. Like there's a time there where they weren't going to some of their traditional uh, events, like they were missing out on Fonda and Utica for a little bit, and that didn't go well with some of the members. So now they're back there, and yeah, when I think Fonda and Utica, I think ESS. So they're back on the schedule for lots of races. I know the Ritchie, or no, that's not right, but and most of them are like 2,500 to win, $2,000 to win. I think it's 250, 300 to start or so. But the main thing about the New York Sprint Car World is they kind of did the exact same thing as we did up here recently, where we just merged the KOT and the Southern Ontario Sprints. The Patriots announced that they have folded. So I wouldn't call them a merge for say, because yeah, I don't know if because they were always fighting each other, the ESS and Patriots a little bit. But yeah, Mike Emhoff decided he's just going to stick. He had acquired the 305 Sprint Tour down there, CSRA or whatever they're called. CSRA
Yep.
305s. So he went with that instead. And yeah, that opens up the deal. So that they're combined. Now it's just ESS. Same thing that happened here, basically.
Yeah, full schedule you can find on their social media pages. Like I'm looking at it right now on Facebook. Like you said, it starts in Saturday, April 15th at Outlaw. Fulton's on the calendar. Fonda's on the calendar. Utica, Rome, Brewerton, Albany, Saratoga, Orange County, Ransomville's got a date. Of course, they're counting the Canadian Sprint Car Nationals as part of their schedule as well. So should expect a pretty full-on invasion for the Canadian Sprint Car Nationals with a bunch of ESS guys coming up north of the border. And something else we should talk about on the show. We had our own race. We had our iRace, the Southern Ontario Dirt Show 75, as part of the BRP iRacing League, which just happened this past Monday. And if you want to check it out, BRP TV on YouTube. You can go back, watch not just that race, but all the races. But it was an entertaining one from Port Royal, which you were heavily in the mix for the first half of it before you had a little bit of a brush with the wall and then some TV issues. But just talk to us about it from your vantage point.
Yeah, Port Royal was fun because like a lot of us didn't have a lot of laps around there, so it kind of evened us out for a lot of guys that have been. It didn't like Brandon Plank said he had just bought it before the. I don't know if he's telling the truth or not. Might have been snookering us, but said he just bought the track and then kicked our butts as always. Jamie Porter definitely was fast in our tune-up race the night before. Like totally demolished us by over half a track, but Plank wasn't in that one. But he couldn't almost got her done, or she was on the show, Jamie Porter, but couldn't quite do it. Brandon Plank got him, and yeah, as far as me, I was like rolling around. First time I ever qualified in like the top half, that's for sure. I think it was like ninth or something like that, and had a decent heat race. And then yeah, I was rolling around eighth or so, and then just got a little too horny on the high side, passed down Slate, and then got in the wall the next lap, and then that was a flip. But then later on in the race, I'd worked my way back up to the top 10 almost, and yeah, I must have been just sawing on the wheel too much, and my TV fell over. I didn't have it fastened to my desk, and then now I need a TV.
That's all right. I'm sure somebody will be able to hook you up with one, or you can find one maybe cheap on a marketplace or something like that. But yeah, man, it was probably my fault. I'm sure I announcer jinxed you because we were talking a lot about you on the show. But you're giving us stuff to talk about. You had a solid run up in the top 10. I think you got as high as almost fifth or sixth at one point before you fell back a couple spots. But yeah, the Southern Ontario Dirt Show number 90 looked pretty slick out there, and I still love that car looks so realistic. The renderings look so realistic that people thought you were going back modified racing, which
Mm-hmm.
honestly, I wouldn't hate you for it if you were gonna have a Southern Ontario Dirt Show car. I'd be up
If
for you
anybody
racing a
out there's
modified.
listening that would like to have a modified, I can cover the engine. All you gotta do is get the car. So there's that. I can at least cover the engine assembly and work. That's for sure. There's a big cut
Yeah, that's a pretty important part of
because I'd
the
love to
whole
have one of
thing.
those to play with still too. And like I still got to try the. I've never tried a car with the full blown coil setup and left side panhard bar like they have now. And yeah, not to
I'm
mention I weld on them now all day.
Well, I'm still waiting for. I got to figure out when I can take Josh Slider up on his offer to drive drive a get jump in one of those Mod
Practice
Lights. I
day,
think.
Merrittville. Come over there. It's done.
All right, I will see if I'll see if my helmet from go karting still fits. I got to double check that, but I
I'll
you heard it here
bring all
first.
4 of my helmets and everything else.
All right,
We'll get you in there.
all right. I'm liking this, Josh. If you're listening, I'm jumping in a Mod Light. We're gonna do it. And I wanted to shout out Oshweekend because they're running a pretty fun contest right now. If you haven't seen it on their social media, it's the Sprint Car Fan Challenge, which all the rules of the contest are posted up on the social media as well. But basically, just send a screenshot of your custom sprint car from you know any number of games that feature sprint car racing in the game. Like for me, I play the World of Outlaws dirt video game. It's been a lot of fun. I really enjoy it. I think I'm even gonna might even start trying to stream it or something. I have a Twitch channel just sitting there. I may as well start using it for something, and maybe it's a stream dirt racing. But anyways, I took a little screenshot. You're gonna be able to find that up on our social media feed. And if you do take that screenshot, you post it up, you could win a pair of tickets for any regular Friday night race night at Oshweekend. So it's just that simple. If you play one of those video games, you're in a sprint car at some point, post up your photo on Instagram. Make sure you tag the track and share it with them, and they'll maybe hook you up with some tickets.
Yeah, definitely cool little deal they got, and it inspired me to maybe have a little chili bowl thing for our listeners on the weekend. So stay tuned for that, like Jonathan said earlier as well.
Yeah, this podcast should drop just before Saturday night. So if you're wondering what we're talking about, make sure you jump on the socials at SODS, SODS underscore pod on Instagram, on Twitter, and check out the Facebook page, Southern Ontario Dirt Show. And we'll have a little contest for you to maybe get your way into a race night in Southern Ontario to start this year. It's been a long off season. It's still a lot in off season, but it feels good to be back on the podcast and talking. And we're going to talk with Andrew Hennessy a little bit coming up on the show in just a few moments. Hey, do you like what you're hearing? Want to support the Southern Ontario Dirt Show and help us expand our coverage across the province and Western New York? Well, your ad could be playing right here. Got a brand or business that deserves more attention? Email us, southernontariodirtshow@gmail.com to become a sponsor of the podcast. And now, let's get back to the show. All right, and we are back on the Southern Ontario Dirt Show podcast. Jonathon Howe, Travis Cunningham, and we're bringing in Andrew Hennessy to talk a little racing as he's making some off-season news. Andrew, welcome to the show. How's the off-season been for you?
Oh, it's been busy. Not racing related busy, but just catching up with things around the house. And I got some hobbies that include vintage snowmobiles and stuff like that. So I've been busy doing that kind of stuff. And I'm just now that the sprint car news is out, I'm kind of switching over to racing here now, getting back into it. So
Yeah, we'll get into your sprint car decision a little bit more later, but first let's talk about the late model side of things, where you come from. Talk about like how was your season before that, and like how you got teamed up with Charlie and all that kind of stuff.
uh, our season was really good. I think we had about 30 races and we won 6 or 7. Finished second overall in the Brighton points and won the touring series that the late models have. Um, how I got hooked up with him was probably 4 or 5 years ago. He was going to a friend's wedding and he needed somebody to drive his car. And they asked me to drive it, and they put me in it for a couple of weeks to get me warmed up because you were allowed to have substitute drivers. And ended up winning back to back in his car. And from then on, they kind of just kept me hanging around, and then offered me um, the chance to run the late model series. I still had my own modified at the time, the Brighton car, and then COVID hit, and from that point on, really just stayed with them full time and sold my stuff off, and that's how that all actually came about.
Nice. And you mentioned the modified. So, Andrew, just to walk us back through maybe the very beginning of your career and how you got started in racing, because it seems like you're somebody who's had a lot of seat time and a lot of different rides.
Yeah, I haven't maybe not a lot of different rides, but I have. I've been racing for 22 years. How I got into it was my dad. He took me to the races before my first birthday, and we used to go to Brighton religiously for, I'm 36 now, so basically for 35 years I've kind of pretty much been there every Saturday night. When I was about 14, I got into a a 4-cylinder car, Comp 4, little Toyota Sleek I had, and I raced that just a couple of times the first year. Then I bought myself a street stock, and raced that for 5 or 6 years, and then switched into the Brighton modifieds. Had a couple of year run with that too, and then I actually went out on my own with a late model too. Um, and after a couple of years, it kind of just got too expensive for me, and so I went back to the modifieds, and I ran that again until basically until Charlie and them offered me to go with them full time. There was a few people here and there that if they were maybe taking a week off or something, need a sub driver, um, they would ask me to run for them. So hit and miss, I'd get in the odd other car, but for the most part, I just ran my own stuff. But 2001, yeah, that was the first year that I raced. That's kind of a quick little recap,
Awesome.
but
I
Yeah.
yeah.
appreciate it.
So like between the modified and the late model at Brighton, like do they drive pretty similar or
Oh yeah, yeah. They're really much. They pretty much are the same car from the foot box back. The front suspension's different. I mean, you got like a 68 to 72 Chevelle clip is what I ran on the front of my car, and then obviously late models like a tube chassis, right? So, but from there back, from the foot box back, their 4-link suspension, bearing bird cages. Basically the same car. The big difference really was the late models got quicker steering, better brakes. Obviously, it's a lot quicker; it reacts quicker, right? But both cars kind of rely on the rear end of turn with the 4-link. I'm sure you guys, you've seen that, right? The cars they roll. You get a lot of body roll, and then you kind of drive off the left rear. So
like
um,
I've never driven one, but to me it looks like you never want to come all the way out of the gas, kind of like sprint cars, kind of the same thing. Like you always want to keep it up on the bars, kind of like how do you do that? Like always keep it jacked up like that.
I guess a lot of it probably just has to do with the way that the cars are already set up with the ride height and stuff. You don't really want them to come off the bar. It's not. I would say they're not really much of a stop and go type car. Especially with a crate motor, keeping the momentum up is always going to help, and that also keep some drive in the car too, right? When you're not on and off the throttle, but uh, it's going to be it's between these. Going to a sprint car is definitely not going to be nothing like what I've done before. Like the modified late model, just about a second different in speed. So that was kind of the biggest thing to get used to for a couple of weeks or whatever, maybe a month, but basically the same car. I mean, just not as quick of steering, but things just happen a little bit quicker, but kind of the same
Yeah,
in a sense.
one has fenders, one doesn't basically.
Yeah,
Yeah, and the stock clip.
that's right.
And you mentioned you're going sprint car racing, so just talk to us about that decision and why venture into the sprint car world now.
Well, the last few years that I was running with Charlie and them, the cars were housed at their place over in Glen Miller, and I've worked the same job for about 12 or 13 years now, and we work till about 6:30 every night. So after work, I would, 2 or 3 nights a week, I'd go over to the farm and we'd work on cars, and I wouldn't get home till midnight. We had a newborn boy there during the pandemic, actually, I guess 2020. So like April 1st, he was born. So, anyways, just I'm never really home, and it was starting to get to me because the first year or two wasn't such a big deal. Like, yeah, I missed him, but he kind of just eat and sleep, right? But now he's walking, talking, and he's got a personality, and then you sitting there at work and you're like, damn, I got to go work on that car tonight. I'd like to go home and see him. It kind of just started to wear on me a bit. I mean, it was really nice running with them guys, and they did everything for both cars to keep them both competitive, and we did really well. And so it was really hard to make that decision, and it, it really bugs me because I grew up racing at Brighton, but um, I just think I need to be home more, and that really was the major factor. I've been thinking about it since probably midway through the summer last year. Some stuff happened, and it just kind of made me open my eyes, and I think I just started to feel like that was most important. So I know that I don't want to quit racing. I knew I never wanted to do that. And I've never actually even had an interest in sprint cars, really. I never really did. I don't know what else I would have run. I definitely didn't want to go slower. You know what I mean? Like I didn't want to go back into something that didn't have any speed. I don't really like the sportsman modifieds, and I couldn't afford a 358 on my own. Um, so I just figured that the sprint car is probably the next best thing. A lot of guys that I have talked to over the years, I guess, even they said they're kind of easy on the maintenance, and they just are. I guess they're kind of simple, so to work on and stuff like that. The late models are a lot of work. There's a lot of moving parts, and there's hundreds of body bolts taking a body off and wash both cars. Like it's just there's a lot of work with the late models, and I feel like this will keep me at home. And I think the maintenance should be a little bit less from what I hear. I mean, I'll know more when I actually get my hands on it. Um,
It's going to be way less, but way less.
Pardon me?
It's going to be way less maintenance than the late model. There's no doubt
Yeah,
about that. The main
yeah,
thing is like that guys struggle with is they don't blow the methanols out of the carburetors and stuff, or especially on the 360s out of the injection, and sometimes it can bung up. And so as long as you're on that and on your bars and don't tear anything up, it's
yeah.
yeah,
Well,
wash it off and keep going.
yeah. No, I'm not afraid to work on the race cars, so I'll be all over that. That won't be.
Yeah, that's
And
awesome.
don't mind putting.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I wanted to ask about. Sorry, Travis. I don't know if you
no,
want
it's
to go
okay.
ahead here.
No, I
Okay,
can follow
I
up.
wanted to ask about Brighton. I mean, for me, I'm a Maryville guy. I'm announcing at that racetrack, Humberstone. Got to venture out to Oshweekend again for the first time in a little while this past summer. So, what is it about Brighton that you love? Obviously, you got some family connections and some memories that were made at that racetrack. But if you were going to sell somebody from the Niagara region, for example, on why they should take a trip up to Brighton one time for a race, what would you say the selling points of Brighton are?
Well, I think Brighton's came a long way, over the years. Mark's done a pretty good job around that place. They've cleaned it up, and the racing is really good. I mean, I think it seems like anytime the Brighton drivers venture off somewhere, they're usually right at the front somewhere. They're in the top 3 or 5, and or they're winning the races. I don't know if that's the track surface or what it is, but I mean, I've made a lot of friends there over the years, so I'm obviously going to miss just seeing the regular people that you see. And maybe you won't even know that you miss it till you're not there. But I know ahead of time that I always look forward to going there on Saturdays and just seeing nobody in specifically, but just I just had a lot of good relationships there, and you're super comfortable when you've been around a place so long. So what I would say, I think that they put on a good show for the most part. Like the races are usually really quick and they don't mess around, and you're gonna be racing with some good racers. So if you wanted some good competition, I think that's a good place to go.
Yeah, it's funny Johnny asked that because that's exactly what I was going to say. Pump up Brighton because I love it too. And yeah, there's just something about the family atmosphere of that place. I've only been there, probably raced there about 20 times now or so. And I just love
Yep.
it. Yeah. Like on a regular night when it's not a 2 day show, like a 2 day show, it can get kind of slick. But like on a regular old night when we're there, it's usually super fast and hot laps, hammer down. And then by the heat race, it's a little bit slicker. And then by the feature, like that place just like that goes to dry slick with a bottom and then to a curb way up, and like it just makes for great racing.
I I feel like that's probably why the Brighton, like even the Thunderstock guys for sure, and our late model guys, when they go somewhere, they generally, I think that's one of the reasons that they're so good is because you're racing on a slick track for the most part, and everybody knows that takes a little more talent than just holding her down on a heavy track, right? So I don't, and no, the only place comparable really that I've been would be Humberstone for a slick racetrack. They're kind of similar. They're a little bit different, but they're kind of similar and the same. But like I love Oshweekend surface. I've only been to Merrittville a couple times, but that place, I think it kind of slicks off too, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, it gets super slick. Like to me,
But
It's
Merrittville and
classy.
Humberstone are kind of like if you mix Merrittville and Humberstone, you get Brighton almost.
yeah, but Merrittville's real tricky coming into 3 and getting off of 4.
Oh yeah, I know.
Uh,
Yeah.
I've really wanted to go back. I raced there once actually, or maybe twice. Either way, that track when I left, like I wanted to go back because I found it to be pretty technical. I have not, I never figured it out. I never did. So someday I'd like to get back there again too. And I find that it's just really hard getting into three, getting your entry correct to get off of four. It's really something else.
You either got to follow it all the way around if there's a cushion, or you got to be way down in the Bicknell ditch. If you get caught in that middle zone, you're lunch and losing 2 seconds a lap. Yeah.
I've been all over it and I haven't gone nowhere yet.
You're gonna have to bring that crate
I
sprint back up here and give her another shot.
Yeah, no, I probably will venture out. For the first little bit, I'm just going to stick with a home track and try and get comfortable. Um, Trying to learn about the car, and then from there I will start probably venturing out a little bit. But they said they're going to release an East series, I guess.
Yeah, I've heard rumblings of it, just haven't seen the whole deal.
Yeah. So I don't know what all the details are, but I'm interested in doing that before heading west at all. Like if I could stay more local and have 4 racetracks to go to, that would probably be right up my alley. But and then maybe like some of the bigger shows at Oshweekend, like that Nationals one or something. Not necessarily saying this year, but maybe by next year I'll feel good enough, or that maybe it would be worth my time to go and try. But I am looking forward to seeing what they come up with or what they release here for schedule in the next week or so.
Yeah. Yep, no doubt about it. I'm looking forward to that too. But I know for sure, like, it's going to be Can-Am, Brockville. I'm sure there's
Mhm.
going to be a Brighton or two, you'd think, So,
Yeah, for
Yep.
sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe a Quebec or two.
I don't know if they're
I don't
running
know.
any
Yeah, I'm
crate.
not sure. I'm just guessing.
Yeah, I always think of
I'm
Quebec as
sure
like the modified place, right? So
Yeah.
anywhere in the Northeast is modified country, really. I mean, especially at that end because they got about 4 modified tracks right there.
yeah,
I mean,
Yeah.
Brockville is a modified track, always will be, and same with Lafargeville, Can-Am, Cornwall, even, and then you got what's that other one down there? Mohawk,
Yeah.
and then there's
yeah,
Plattsburgh or Air, whatever. Like everywhere is a modified track in the Northeast, but these the sprint cars really seem to take over there in the West. That especially that crate class has got a ton of cars, and I think it has something to do, with that crate motor stuff. I mean, I know a lot of people are mixed emotions about them and everything, but they do keep the cost in check, kind of, right? So, like, look at the sportsman class and for dirt car. Like, there's
yeah,
you you get into the middle of part of New York, and there's 60 cars showing up, and they're running 2 features a night for them,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yep.
I do think that the sprint car class will take off in the East. I think it will.
Yeah. The one thing we forget about
I think.
Americans, like, there's just so much more of them over there too. You know what I mean? Like,
yes,
Oh,
yeah.
population
That's
yeah,
wise.
exactly it.
So a lot more stuff works over there as well. But
for sure.
yeah, the crate motors, like, the one thing about the crate sprints I've noticing is, like, a lot of more guys will start out in them and then progress up. Whereas a lot of time the sportsman guys just kind of, I'm not saying guys don't move up, obviously, but
Yep.
90% of the guys kind of just hover along. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yep. They do.
Not saying that's bad.
But it's probably like that everywhere, really. If you really sat back and looked at it,
Yeah, probably.
like I like Matt Shepard. He can't go any further, with the dirt stuff. He dominates everything, right? So
Mhm.
yeah,
he's going to be that for quite a while moving forward too. He's not going anywhere, I don't imagine. But and then you got, like there's the Shane Pecors down there in the Sportsmans, and I can't remember the other guy's name, but there's Govro, I think it is, or something. And those guys
Yeah.
are pretty dominant. I think it's just a money thing, right? Like they can't probably afford a 358
Yeah.
program, and I'm just all about doing whatever you can afford, really. Like I don't care if you're running a 4 cylinder or a super late model or whatever. I don't care. It's just cool to have people at racetracks. That's all I want. Is see cars on the racetrack. So
Yep. I love that attitude. One thing about Brighton, like, how come the party at Brighton at Labor Day or at Apple Fest, like, just blows every other racetrack party out of the water? What do you think
I
that
knew this
I
was coming.
I don't know. I'm a partier, to be honest with you. Like
No.
I'll have a here and there or whatever, but like I don't know. It's just one of those things. I think a few good scraps helped that out actually a few years back.
Mm.
And then I just think everybody wanted to be at the party after that. I don't know. Uh, they got good fans, and they got that big trailer with the roll up door, and they do they put a pretty big emphasis on that bonfire.
Yeah, it all works out.
Yeah.
And then I think there's a lot more people up your way with the attitude like, we're not going to bed at 11 p.m. Or even if we're racing the next day, we're going to try and hammer it out to at least 2 or
Right.
3. I think that's what it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. This is just, I don't know. It's the perfect long weekend. Everybody send their kids probably back to school too, right?
Mhm.
Yep.
So they probably just want to party hard.
That's my
So
favorite
your last-
weekend party of the year. I love
a
nationals
lot
and
of people,
everything, but yeah,
a lot of people look forward to that weekend.
yeah.
It's been a pretty big weekend for a long time now. Like the sprints have been run, like the headliner on that for what, like
2 decades easy.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say at least like 15 years for sure.
Yeah. Yep, love it.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, we'll get you out of here on this one, Andrew. This is our Canadian Penny Memorial question we stole from the Corey LaJoy
You
podcast.
stole.
But I stole, I guess. Yeah, I stole it. But it works. We don't have pennies up here, and they call their podcast the Stack and Pennies podcast. But I wanted to ask you if I could give you one race car on one racetrack to drive for the rest of your life. What's your combination you're going with?
One race car on one racetrack. Well, it's probably going to be disappointing for you, but I would probably pick a super late model. Until I've driven a sprint. I mean, maybe it would be fair to ask me that after, but until this point, I would pick a super late model, and I would probably, geez, I don't even know. So many cool racetracks. Probably some.
Especially for super late models.
Pardon me. Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, you know what I'd like to do for fun is I went to the Dome race this year in St. Louis and watched. I think that'd be neater now. So that's what
Yeah.
just to go have a blast, not have to be super serious, but go have fun, and that would be fun. I think, even though they destroy
That's
it.
a good one.
But
Find one of your Brighton buddies to lend you a modified. Get down there.
oh yeah,
Find one. Yeah.
yeah, maybe I don't know. You never know. Or late,
Never know.
Or either one. But that was a
Yeah.
good atmosphere down there, and went down with 3 friends, and there was other friends that we already had down there, and I would go again. It was it was a lot of fun. So
That's awesome. Yeah, that's a bucket list item for sure.
yeah. So yeah, that's what.
All right. That's a good pick. I like that pick. And I don't think anybody's picked that one. I think that's a new one for us on the show so far. So that's awesome. Thanks for taking the time tonight, Andrew. Good luck with the upcoming season, getting used to crate sprints. And I have a lot of faith in you that we're going to be seeing you down here, hopefully tackling that tricky 3 and 4 in Merrittville, maybe sometime in the new year. But take care. All the best. And thanks for coming on the show.
Hey, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, buddy.
And the checkered is out on another episode of the Southern Ontario Dirt Show. Be sure to rate, review, and subscribe for future episodes. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Southern Ontario Dirt Show. Have a question for the show? Email us, southernontariodirtshow@gmail.com. Thanks for supporting local racing in Southern Ontario, and we'll see you at the track.